When your spiritual awakening comes to an end, strange and unexpected things begin to happen. The shift to a new state of consciousness brings unique experiences that many don't talk about. Spiritual awakening, post-awakening, spiritual growth, new reality. Do you remember that moment when everything changed, even though nothing externally had shifted? It was as if an ancient code was activated within you, a silent sound that couldn't be heard with your ears, but vibrated in your chest like an ancestral echo. That was the call of the light. The moment you realized you weren't just a body wandering around, but an ancient consciousness, a spark awakened that finally recognized its own radiance. Many celebrate this awakening as if it were the pinnacle. But the truth is, it's only the threshold of the portal, the doorstep of initiation. The awakening is just the first whisper of a universe that now observes you with different eyes. It doesn't come with a manual or guarantees. It comes as a rupture, a crack in the veil, an opening that changes your perception of time, matter, and identity. It's like being thrown out of the familiar and at the same time feeling at home for the first time. And in this new place, your soul begins to remember. You didn't come just to become enlightened. You came to sustain the light. And that is daily, silent, vibrational work. This is where many stumble. Because after the initial ecstasy, the ego tries to creep in, creating expectations, comparisons, and attachments. It wants to turn the awakening into a spectacle, a label, a title. But the call of the light doesn't accept a stage. It demands presence. It invites you to be a living temple, not just a spectator of beautiful visions. You need to learn to maintain the frequency, even when the world doesn't understand you. And maintaining isn't resisting. It's embodying, it's vibrating with intention, it's bringing the light down to your bones. It's honoring the invisible in the choices of the visible. The light you accessed didn't come to entertain you. It came to set you ablaze. And this fire doesn't burn on the outside. It purifies within. It burns patterns, habits, distractions, attachments, and illusions. It comes to seal a pact between your soul and your mission. And now that the seal is broken, there's no going back to the old slumber. The question is no longer, who am I? But rather, what do I do with this light I carry? Because the awakening, beloved soul, is not the end of the search. It is the beginning of the true journey. And you heard the call not by chance, but because your soul already knew the way. When your eyes opened to the subtle worlds, a silent exchange took place. The invisible began to see you too. The veil didn't fall just so you could see, but so that you could be seen. And this vibrational recognition changes everything, because now your presence emits a signal. Your aura pulses differently. Your energy carries a code that can no longer be hidden. The universe knows, the spiritual forces know, and the invisible intelligences, elevated or not, notice that a light has ignited within you. You become like a flame in the dark. You radiate and attract. You attract gazes, presences, tests, and confirmations. And this should not be a cause for fear, but for awareness. Because once you're recognized as awakened, you begin to occupy a new place in the vibrational web of existence. The spiritual world starts to consider you a point of anchoring, a living portal, a frequency emitter. Even if your mind is still adjusting, your soul is already operating in another dimension of influence. This is why, after the awakening, the trials increase. The field tests your steadfastness, not because it wants to see you fall, but because it needs to know how much light it can trust you with. You are no longer someone who seeks, you are someone who emits, a lighthouse. And lighthouses don't ask who's watching, they just stay lit. Even in the fog, even in the storm, even when no one says thank you. Many don't understand this sudden exposure. They feel exhausted, drained, watched. But this happens because your frequency now interferes with the fields around you. People may find you strange without knowing why. Places may repel you or drain you, but all of this is a sign that your field is active. And an active field needs to be protected, sealed, and cared for with spiritual diligence. The veil has fallen, and with it, the illusion of separation has fallen too. Now you know, and you know you are seen, and with this knowing comes a new responsibility: to remain whole even when no one is watching, to be a temple even when the altar seems empty, to be a channel even when the source feels distant. Because the universe doesn't awaken you to show you off, it awakens you to position you. And this positioning is invisible, but essential. You have been recognized, and now your entire journey vibrates under this new light. Do you remember the intensity of those first days after the awakening? The signs seemed to dance before you. Dreams were vividly clear. Synchronicities multiplied like whispers from the universe saying, "You're on the path." But then, without warning, everything seemed to stop. The sky went silent. The visions retreated. The enthusiasm dissolved into a dense, unresponsive silence. And you wondered, did I lose the connection? Did I stray from the path? But no, awakened soul. This silence is not punishment, it is initiation. The emptiness now surrounding you is not absence, it is a matrix. It is the cosmic womb, where your new identity is being formed. What once guided you from the outside is now being anchored within. The guides fall silent because your own soul is being called to speak. The signs cease because it's time for you to become the sign. And this transition is uncomfortable, yes, because the mind screams for stimulation while the spirit calls for presence. The ego wants movement, but the soul demands stillness. It is in this silent field that the true initiation happens, not in portals filled with light, but in the empty rooms of the soul. Here, you learn to remain even without emotion, to trust even without proof, to vibrate even without applause. And this is the true test of the light, not to be dazzled by the highs, but to stay steadfast in the lows, carrying the inner fire even when the night is long. Most give up at this stage. They mistake silence for abandonment and emptiness for error. But the master always arrives disguised as silence, and the true initiation begins when you quiet yourself within and still remain connected, because now it's no longer about seeking, but about sustaining, about inhabiting the sacred even without feeling its vibration. It is in this womb of silence that your light ceases to be a reflection and becomes a presence. You learn to no longer depend on the external to confirm the internal. You begin to walk through the world as one who carries an altar within their chest, and that changes everything. Before we continue, if this message is resonating with your journey, take this moment to subscribe, leave a like, and write in the comments, "I accept the silence of initiation." This strengthens the network of the awakened on this channel and helps this light reach others who are ready to hear. Have you noticed that since the moment the light touched your consciousness, your body began to respond in strange and inexplicable ways? It's not an illusion, it's adaptation. Because when the soul expands, the body needs to reorganize its systems to sustain this new vibration. And this doesn't happen without effort. You may have felt extreme fatigue for no apparent reason, sleep that comes in unpredictable waves, or even insomnia that seems to come from another world. Foods that once seemed normal now feel heavy. Noisy places become unbearable. Smells become more intense. The body is translating the language of the new consciousness. No, you're not breaking, you're recalibrating. Every cell in your body is being called to recognize the new presence that now inhabits this physical temple. And the body, ancient and full of memory, sometimes resists. It doesn't immediately understand the language of the spirit, but it feels its impact. It's like receiving a new soul in an old house. There are cracks that need to be tended to, inner doors that need adjusting, frequencies that need harmonizing. This transition is sacred. It's the process of embodying the awakening, not just as an idea, but as a living experience. Your body begins to operate in a more sensitive, more energetic, more receptive field. You become both a sponge and an emitter at the same time. Everything is felt more deeply. Everything affects you more intensely. This demands new care, not based on fear, but on reverence. Conscious eating, present breathing, movement with intention, rest as part of spiritual work. The truth is that many desire awakening, but few are prepared to sustain it in the body. Because it's not enough to expand the mind, you must anchor the soul in the flesh, and that hurts because the body screams, resists, deprograms, and reconfigures. But every spasm, every discomfort, every change is a silent testimony that something grand is being embodied. You're not sick, you're being remade. The temple is being prepared for a light that couldn't inhabit you before. Honor this process. Be patient with your bones, your organs, your skin, your blood. They are learning a new language. They are being initiated into the vibration of your awakened soul. Have you noticed that after the awakening, people started to drift away without explanation? Relationships that seemed eternal dissolved into thin air. Places that once filled you now feel empty, and that sense of belonging vanished, leaving an uncomfortable silence where there once was movement. This loneliness, though painful, is not a failure. It is sacred. It is the cosmic movement that distances you from what no longer resonates, so your field can realign with what truly vibrates with your new frequency. The universe, when it perceives that your soul is ready, begins to clear the surroundings, not as punishment, but for vibrational precision. Connections based on old patterns break. Situations you once tolerated become unbearable, not because you've become insensitive, but because you've become conscious. And consciousness no longer allows you to stay where the energy is misaligned. This is the stage where you feel in vibrational exile. You walk among people, but don't feel seen. You participate in conversations, but feel absent. There's a longing for something you haven't yet found, but your soul already recognizes as its destiny. This discomfort is the call to retreat, to empty, to purify the field. Sacred loneliness is a portal, a process of reordering, a period when the universe closes doors so you don't get distracted from the path. And yes, this hurts the heart, but it also strengthens the soul, because in this social silence, you learn to hear your essence. You learn not to seek validation, but to vibrate truth. You learn to walk without applause, sustained only by the frequency pulsing within. When everything around you drifts away, it's a sign that something within is about to emerge. The universe distances you, yes, but only to align your presence with the higher path. You are being repositioned on the cosmic chessboard, removed from where there's no longer spiritual nourishment, to be placed where there's mission, truth, and reconnection. Don't curse the loneliness. Honor it. It is the preparation for the reunion with your tribe of light, and only those who cross this desert with faith will reach the oasis where souls vibrate in the same song. Do you remember when the signs seemed to chase you? Clocks stopped at mirrored hours, repeating numbers flashed on signs, screens, receipts. Butterflies crossed your path on days of doubt. Songs said exactly what you needed to hear. The universe seemed to speak to you in every possible language. It was magical, fluid, enchanting. But suddenly everything went quiet. The synchronicities stopped. The codes vanished. And you wondered, did I lose my way on the journey? But the truth, awakened soul, is that you didn't lose your way. You evolved. The signs didn't disappear because something went wrong. They disappeared because you became the sign. The universe no longer needs to prove it's with you because now it walks through you. What was once external has been internalized. The bridge between the invisible and the visible now resides within your field. This is an advanced stage of spiritual initiation, when the guides no longer speak in words but in vibrations, when dreams no longer need interpretation because your intuition decodes them before you even sleep, when the absence of visible miracles doesn't mean abandonment, but rather complete trust that your frequency is shaping reality. Being the sign means being the mirror, the reflection, the transmitter of the light you once admired from the outside. Now you carry it, you sustain it, you anchor it. The silence of synchronicities is not punishment, it is elevation. The universe no longer needs to capture your attention with numbers and metaphors. Now it observes you with reverence, waiting for you to manifest the frequency without needing external reinforcement. This is where the path becomes subtler but also more powerful, because there are no more distractions, no more easy tests, just you, your consciousness, and the responsibility to embody what you've seen, felt, and understood. You have become the portal, the living vibration, the embodied message. And when you start living this way, not seeking signs but being presence, miracles happen without announcement. Doors open without sound, changes flow without fanfare, because those who sustain the frequency become the frequency, and you now are the very sign that something greater is unfolding on this earth. Since your soul crossed the threshold of awakening, something within you began to open like a flower responding to the sunlight. Slowly, yet inevitably, you began to perceive more, feel more, intuit more. Unexpectedly, your senses expanded beyond the physical. Subtle sounds began to call you in the silence. Places reveal truths once invisible. Someone's gaze carries an entire story before a single word is spoken. And all of this feels magical until it starts to weigh. Yes, your gifts are awakening. Empathy sharpens, energetic sensitivity heightens, and perception becomes almost superhuman. But with expansion comes the test, discernment. Because now you don't just feel, you absorb. And if you don't know how to distinguish what's yours from what's others, your soul begins to drown in external noise. The beauty of the gift becomes a trap when there's no consciousness to sustain it. This is a crucial point in the journey. Many awakened souls are enchanted by their abilities and fall into the illusion that feeling everything is synonymous with evolution. But it's not. Feeling everything without filtering is living in chaos. The gift needs structure. The channel needs protection. The field needs boundaries. Being sensitive isn't about being open to everything. It's about being selective in vibration. It's knowing when to connect and when to withdraw. It's learning to observe without absorbing. The universe entrusted you with spiritual keys, but not to overwhelm you, rather to make you responsible. Your gifts are tools, not trophies. They are for service, not display. They are for healing, not impressing. And the greatest of them all is not clairvoyance or telepathy. It is inner clarity. The wisdom to navigate between worlds without losing the axis of your own soul. At this point, your mission refines. You stop being just someone who perceives and become someone who translates. A silent oracle, a conscious mirror, a lucid channel. But for this, you need energetic maturity. You need to know how to say no vibrationally. You need to let your consciousness guide your sensitivity, not the other way around. You have been entrusted with gifts few understand. Protect them, refine them, honor them, because the universe doesn't awaken just anyone. It awakens those ready to serve with what they feel. There are days when you wake up with the distinct feeling you've already lived that morning, as if time were a spiral and you were revisiting a point from a new perspective. Sometimes, a casual conversation throws you into a memory that didn't happen in this life. Vivid dreams of different versions of you, older, wiser, freer, visit you like fragments of a parallel reality. It's not madness, it's the collapse of timelines. And this collapse is real for those who have awakened. When your soul aligns with its higher purpose, the dimensions of linear experience begin to dissolve. You no longer live in a straight line, you live in intersections. Your choices, your frequency, your thoughts begin to reverberate between unlived pasts and unformed futures. And what was fixed begins to become fluid. You feel like you're in two places at once, or nowhere, but between everything. This phenomenon isn't spiritual fiction. It's vibrational transition. The timelines that aren't coherent with your elevated frequency begin to crumble. People, plans, paths, and old versions of you dissolve. And this can cause confusion, disorientation, a grief for something that never even happened. But all of this is necessary because only what vibrates in resonance with your highest now can remain. This in-between worlds requires courage, because you'll be called to make choices that don't make logical sense, but make vibrational sense. You'll feel instinctively what needs to be released, even if your mind still wants to hold on. Something greater is at play. Your original timeline is trying to reconnect with you, the one encoded before you were even born. And for that, the detours must collapse. You're not getting confused, you're returning to the axis. The chaos you feel is realignment, the overlapping of time's layers until only what is true, pure, and aligned remains. And in that moment, you become the point of convergence, the living anchor of a new reality. Embrace the collapse as liberation, trust the spiral. The universe is engineering your destiny in your timeline, and only those vibrating in presence will be able to anchor what is to come. Have you ever felt that inexplicable recognition when looking into the eyes of someone you just met? As if their presence were familiar, as if the energy spoke before words. This is the beginning of the reunion with your tribe of light, beings who vibrate in the same subtle field, consciousnesses that share the same mission, souls that walked with you in other cycles and are now, finally, aligning in the physical plane. But this reunion doesn't happen by chance. It requires vibrational space. Before your tribe finds you, the universe invites you to let go, to release the ties that still bind your energy to old dynamics, friendships that no longer vibrate with you, relationships that drain your field, environments where your soul can no longer breathe. All of this must be released with love and gratitude, because the new frequency doesn't enter territories where energy is still tied to the past. This process of letting go isn't easy. There's a part of you that still wants to belong to the places you came from, even knowing you no longer fit there. There are sweet memories, unfulfilled promises, emotional loyalties. But if you keep the past alive in your field, your tribe won't see you. Because the field must be clear to emit the right signal. It must be available for the new vibration. And this available isn't just physical, it's emotional, energetic, spiritual. When your frequency is coherent with your purpose, connections arrive with magnetism. There will be no effort. There will be resonance. Conversations will flow like prayer. Silences will be comfortable. Time will feel suspended. And above all, there will be mission. Because the tribe doesn't form for entertainment, it forms to anchor light, build portals, sustain collective processes. These encounters are precious and rare, and the purer your vibration, the more refined these connections will be. You'll realize you no longer need to please, explain, or dim your light. On the contrary, you'll be called to expand it. Because your tribe doesn't shy away from your intensity, it recognizes it. But remember, the tribe isn't sought, it is attracted. And to attract the new, you must honor what has fulfilled its cycle and let it go with peace. There comes a moment in the journey when the search loses its meaning, not because you gave up, but because you finally understood that what you sought outside was always within. And then something silently shifts in your vibration. You stop being the eternal pilgrim and begin to assume your place as a guardian. The one who doesn't just carry the light, but becomes responsible for keeping it alive in the physical world. Being a guardian isn't about power or visibility. It's about presence. It's about coherence between what you know and how you live. The guardian is the one who embodies the sacred in every choice, every word, every daily gesture. They don't preach, they radiate. They don't convince, they vibrate. They don't seek signs. They become a dwelling place for the spirit. This is the moment when spirituality ceases to be just transcendence and becomes embodied practice. You begin to realize that the earth is also an altar. That routine is also a ritual. That relationships are also portals of healing. And that it's not enough to meditate or intuit, you must manifest. Consciousness must descend, it must touch the ground. It must transform your tangible life with the wisdom you accessed in the invisible. This is the moment of subtle responsibility. Now that your vision has expanded, your actions become even more powerful. Your intentions shape your reality. Your vibration influences everything around you. And so you are called to anchor, to live as a conscious mirror, to no longer hide behind the search, but to position yourself as a pillar between worlds. You have been initiated. You have been tested. You have been transformed. Now you are a bridge, a living frequency, a channel that translates the heavens into form, light into matter, vision into action. Being a guardian isn't about carrying a spiritual title. It's about inhabiting the mission with humility and steadfastness. It's understanding that your existence is part of a greater plan, and that every gesture of yours can open or close a field. The search is over. Now, it's time to live what you know, to plant the new earth with your choices, because your soul didn't awaken to escape reality, it awakened to be a pillar within it. You didn't awaken to escape reality, you awakened to become a pillar between heaven and earth. May your soul learn to sustain the light with steadfastness. The call wasn't the end, it was just the beginning.